But just as we're wrapping up, I gotta ask you, Sean. Of course, you do the very successful Kliq this with Kevin Nash. Uh, my side job, of course, I work for Conan Disco and Keep the 100.
Are you guys
Uh,
rivals, by the way? Are these, or is it all kind of copacetic because you're all in the same
It's a
space?
shoot or work, bro.
Brother.
We pay attention to nobody.
Mm.
It's the best way I can.
And you guys have more of a unique vibe anyway. You guys kind of do your own thing. It's obviously
we
Kevin
just
driven.
do our own thing. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, that's fine. Get the fuck off. It's like we really don't pay attention. Shuli, Sirius came to us. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about this. But,
Go ahead.
right.
I'll allow it.
And they clearly never dealt with Kevin Nash in contract negotiation. Needless to say, we're not on Sirius.
Yeah.
But so, and it's very much that. It's like we do what we do, and we don't. We're barely. I mean, we bullet point. Maybe we'll talk for a couple of hours, and then we'll just go on. And it unlike the heavily scripted shows like this, and yeah, and it's like I don't think people that in the podcast realm, it's very important to have a niche. You need to have that. What category are you in? And people don't understand when we go, well, he was a wrestler. We don't really talk about wrestling. Sometimes we do. He was in movies. Sometimes we talk about that. And I think that's uncomfortable. I think people in the wrestling podcast world talk about, the Bunkhouse Stampede, for 2 hours this week. And next week it's going to be War Games 97.
Right.
And it's so regimented and it's the same fucking item on an entire salad bar. So there's no rivalry because we don't really pay attention, listen, or care what everyone else is doing. We're similar in that way, which is why the Simon and Garfunkel thing works. I'm clearly Paul Simon in the analogy.
I'm such a mark that I immediately could remember the main event of War Games 97, which was the NWO versus the Horsemen. Conan was in it, and Nash, our bosses.
They don't have dating apps out there where you're at.
I can't get hard.
Not then.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't matter. Yeah. But the thing I gotta ask you, Sean, about it's about fan criticism, because Keep the 100, there is nothing that they can do right in the eyes of the fans. Like they talk too much, they talk too little, or they're dragging it out, or they're speeding. Or they get political, all this shit. And Nash is a very political, lovely young man who I've met while I was totally wasted. That's a story that I was on for, and drunk, and I'll even as a viewer, like, he does bring everything back to politics, and he's very one-sided. And sometimes I don't know if it hurts the show or helps the show. But for you, Sean, what from your perspective, what do you think of that and reaction to it, and how big is your penis?
That's actually the first part of that's actually a very good question, because what we managed to do in our short time, in our 3 years here, is alienate half of the country, which is silly, because we really are very centrist in our opinions. We diverge on some stuff, but I think most thinking people are. They're most vocal on the wild ends of the political spectrum, but most
what did you say?
Most people land within 10 or 15 percentage points of either side on most of their opinions. Nobody's entirely this or entirely. Well, there are, but they're the fringe, right? They're the people that storm the Capitol, or on the other side, burn down a city when they don't like a judge's decision. Most people are in the middle, and people don't take the time. They hear the one thing that they find incendiary to their political belief, and then they label you this or that. So yeah, if you scroll down the comments of any of the YouTube posts of our shows, there are literally sometimes comment after comment of diverging. One will say, here goes politics hitting the fast forward. And then the next one will say, thank God you're talking about real life things outside wrestling. So once again, the lesson is, and this is something I knew from before, we're running Kayfabe Commentaries or reading book reviews or when I was in movies, you just really can't listen to anybody.
You just got to do your thing, man, because those wackos are going to leave for one reason or another at some point. They'll figure out a reason to storm off in disgust. You don't have to go out of your way to piss them off.
And, you know, singing the song you sing is what got you to wherever you are. So if you're going to start to try and cater that or care about the other stuff, the tune is going to change, in keeping with my bridge over troubled water analogy from before.
But do you ever feel that even as a for the sake of drawing in the numbers that Nash like I've noticed on Cape No 100 there's times Conan and like Disco will be like, oh, I don't know the story, move on. It's like there's no way you don't know the story. Like you're not like. Do you think that sometimes it hurts the show when Nash seems to give such little of a shit on a certain topic? Not that he has to be like a mega mark like me or Dan, but especially Dan, I'm totally cool. Like, do you think, fuck, if only he would talk about, as you said, War Games 97, did you think that could be a good 20-minute block for YouTube?
I ask him wrestling questions, and the other thing too you have to remember is that Kevin was never a wrestling fan. He was this big giant guy at the Cheetah Club that someone, I think Barry Windham, might have been like, hey man, you're a big fucker. You ever think about this? And that was it. I mean, he didn't watch when he was a kid. It was on. He was in Detroit, so he got the Sheik's big-time wrestling product. So he was aware of it. But, I mean, he's not like Waltman, where you could say, hey, you ever see Pompero Firpo's match? And then he could tell you every television match he had. That's not Kevin. So I ask him as many wrestling questions that are palatable. I love, like, when we go to the fan questions at the end, and someone will be like, so in War Games 97, Kevin will go, no idea. Don't remember. And that's it. But the great thing about it is, and the reason Kevin's interesting, to suck his dick a little bit here, is you can talk about, he was an art history major in college. All right. So like right there, he played basketball for the Volunteers. He played professional basketball in Europe. He was an art history major. He was an actor. So you can bring up almost anything and be able to talk to Kevin about it. And those were the people in the wrestling. I was friends with people in the wrestling business off camera with Kayfabe. It was people like that. That's why Kevin and I do the show, because off camera we always had a good time. Sullivan, someone else like that I could sit at dinner with, and you could talk about almost anything. You go real estate, the market, anything with Kevin Sullivan. And have an interesting conversation. So there's a handful of people like that are interesting in the business, and Kevin is one of them. That's why the show is successful, is because Kevin can go almost anywhere. And his identity, what people in the business know Kevin as, the rest of the world know Kevin as. He could be a little curmudgeon-y and all these other things. So he's kind of brought that character out to the masses on Kliq This, which drops every morning at 6 a.m.
All right, sold, Sean. I'll do the show. I'll come on as a guest. You got it.
Yeah.
Sure.
But
We have very few guests. That's another thing. That's another thing you should ask me, Sean. What about having guests? We did it on our premium channel a few times, and Kevin would always say, I want people to tune in for us.
Smart.
Yeah.
And
But I get a question, and this is kind of serious and maybe a little bit of a mood killer, but like a few years ago, I think it's coming
Auschwitz?
up. Yeah.
Yeah. This is good. I got to go and eat dinner, so really bum me out these next few minutes. Go ahead.
So Kevin Nash went through something that gives the rest of us like legitimate anxiety and about ever happening. Like his son passed away, and like nobody's ever thinking, get over it. Talk about War Games. That Kurt Hennig must have been cool to wrestle with, right? But what do you think about the types of critics who? Like, I'll see those comments. So I remember it was, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, but somebody literally wrote, can he not just get over it already? And you think, what a jerk store, pardon my language, guys.
Yeah.
Well, on that, I'll say that we had only been doing the show 3 months or 4 months, Tristan was helping a lot on the show, and we wanted him more and more to get involved, almost like a Stern Show thing. Like Tristan, if you have something to say, throw it out. Like you know, you don't have to shirk into the background because it's your dad's show. And he was really funny, and so when he passed, I'd been talking with Kev all night from the hospital, and then about around 6 that morning, around 2, it looked like we knew where it was going to go, and then at around 6, he said he's gone. And so I unfortunately had to snap into the other, like, all right, we have a show. So I had to call Conrad, and I had to, we're kind of new to it, and he was great. And he said, whatever you guys need. I said, well, I think just right now, if I can get some like best of stuff together and just get some, and then maybe we're gonna probably for at least a few weeks, maybe months, maybe a year, gonna need to put some people in his seat. I don't know, if he's gonna be able to do this. And I called my engineer and start pulling footage and stuff. And then at about 4 in the afternoon, I get a text from Kev. He goes, "You didn't send me the link for tonight." I said, "Because you're not doing a show." And he wrote me back, and he said, "The world needs to hear this from me." And that set a tone.
Yeah.
And that's why we go real on the show. Sometimes we're shitty with each other, and sometimes we're having fun, and sometimes we're... And we recorded it that Saturday, and he told the world for the first time on that show. And I realized that, okay, he wants it to be very real. This is going to be very un-podcasty. And from that time, for all the dick jokes and stuff that we still have people writing in, posting comments when they have lost, when they connected with Kevin in a very different way.
It definitely humanized him, that whole episode.
However, the flip side of this that I do have to tell you is, and I have to link this all to the political discourse in the United States, and that Kevin was making it very clear where his allegiances were. He dealt with really, really hellacious things from people who didn't agree with him politically. They got his phone number right around this time where he and his wife were putting his son to rest, and they just said horrible things about, someone who supports a vaccine, this is what you expect, like just really. And so for all the money or whatever people, are envious of Kevin for, I've seen him have to deal with really bad things. See, people, when you're in the public eye, like Kevin is, people think they have implicit permission from a distance, of course, to do or say anything to you. And a lot of people used, and it still happens sometimes, you can scroll those comments occasionally, and Tristan's name will pop up. Most of the time in wonderful ways. The music, we play his music on the show in our end credits. But sometimes you get some douchebag who wants to take an opportunity to weaponize the death of his son against him for political reasons.
Fucking gross.
So there's two sides to that, Husey.
Fucking gross. I get a little bit of that from Dan online, and I'm not a fan of it. So stop it, Dan. Thank you. Appreciate it.